Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stire Sound, episode 30. Hard to believe we're already on episode 30, but we're here to recap the Arlington Supercross. A lot of things to talk about. We were both there, so we get to see everything going on. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for listening wherever you may be listening from, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We're still getting this dialed together, but as you can see, we got both of us on screen instead of just looking at Jack when he's talking or not. We're a little bit better with that here today, but here we are ready to recap Arlington round 7 of the Supercross season, round number 1 of 250 East. Joining me as always from the Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot WMR KTM team, Jack Noel. Finally back at the races. Both of us got to be there. How are we feeling after Arlington?
Yeah, for me it was good. I mean, I had a good time. I love Arlington's one of my favorite races to go to. I think in an overall perspective on racing as a whole, from like a fan perspective, I think it was a great night of racing. I think everybody was pretty happy with how everything
Sure.
went, minus a few interesting calls, I guess. But nonetheless, I think the racing delivered, and that was good. But on our team side, it was kind of a slow night. I mean, not having Gage really kind of hurts us sometimes, or hurts us right now, and just being with it being so stacked at the right now at the beginning of the season, we're kind of just playing catch up a little bit, trying to put our names in the fight, which we did a little bit. We were kind of up there in the LCQ. Kessler and Marcus were both inside the top six at one point. I think Kush was inside the top four, on the first lap, but and then Driscoll's coming back from injury as well, so the team's a little banged up right now, but I think as we continue to grow throughout the year, if we can stay healthy and keep these guys going, I think we'll be in a good spot. I think Daytona's a little bit better for us. I think it being like a home race, we'll have a bunch of people there, and Daytona's always a good track, and always you see I think it's a very much of a separator track, so the times won't be so close. The track won't be so much dependent on one section of the track, and I think it'll be good racing, but. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to next weekend. This weekend wasn't anything to write home about. So, yeah, but this weekend, from a fan's perspective, definitely brought some very, very interesting racing, a lot of controversies, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Jace has made a previous main event at Daytona, so that could be a little bit of momentum you guys need going into the weekend, but we're just going to go ahead and hop into it. Everybody's talking about it. You're probably going to get sick of hearing it this week, but the red light controversy from Arlington. If you've lived under a rock, red lights turned on because Derek Kelly managed to get cattywampus and fly into the face of the finish line backwards. And then as he was riding away, the red lights turned on, and Joe Shimoda was coming through the section. He saw the red lights, decided to roll through them. Pierce Brown jumped through there, got the lead from him, never looked back, marred his first career win, which is unfortunate. I was stoked to see Pierce get that win, but now with so much controversy, it's a little tainted, I feel like. Not from Pierce's end, no fault of his own, but because of all of the officiating and ruling. And then there apparently was some red light incidents in the 450 class as well. A couple guys, I think Eli Tomac jumped on them. The AMA comes out and said, no, no penalties from the 250 class or the 450 class, but they said they are going to quote unquote review their procedure and process. Personally, from my point of view, watching from the press box, I couldn't really tell that red lights were on because the way I was sitting, I'm like angled and okay, it's the wrong view from this eye. I got to go opposite for zoom, but like this is my angle toward the finish line. So I see the top of the finish line jump. I don't see that side where Joe was coming up and I don't see the lights. So I didn't really know what was happening. I just see Joe go through their roll. I'm like, well, he must have saw a light or saw a flag or something. And then everybody else jumps through. I didn't even really catch Joe rolling. I think I was watching out for Cole Davies, honestly, because dude was ripping through the pack. But then I turn around and I'm like, oh, Pierce Brown's in the lead. I'm not sure what to think of it, but it seems like at least once or twice a year, we get some kind of officiating controversy, and it sucks. And it also makes me realize being an official in sports, whether it's a referee in stick and ball sports or a race official in NASCAR, Supercross, F1, something like that, that's an unenviable job. I would never want to be a part of that and make those decisions because it doesn't matter what kind of decision you make. If you're getting talked about, something happened and something went wrong, probably. It's not a fun position to be in, and I understand Honda being upset, absolutely. They felt like they were robbed of a win. Joe Shimoda probably should have won the race, but who knows at this point? It's going to be a very contentious issue for sure. My stance on it is we definitely got to clear things up. Traditionally, I always think of the flags being the ultimate judge because lights, and of course, flags can mess up every once in a while depending on who's running them. But I feel like lights have more of a chance to malfunction, more of a chance to just turn on randomly or get hit at the wrong time. I always think of flaggers when you're rolling through a session, which obviously I've never raced before, so I don't have that mindset that some of these guys do. But I always think of, hey, if you see a guy with the flags, that's who you pay attention to. And I remember seeing the replay, and the one flagger's looking at the lights like, what's going on here? Why is these lights on? It was a weird scenario. I'm not sure what to think about it other than I wish we had a better way to do things. I think flags should be the way to go because I feel like, at least as a fan's perspective, and I'm sure probably from the rider's perspective, the flags are what they pay attention to a little bit more. Of course, you think about through the race. Somebody goes down, there's yellow flags. If there's lappers in the area, there's blue flags. There's always some sort of flagger usually standing by at the racetrack. And I think trying to implement some of these light procedures is starting to make it too confusing. And I think that's what we saw on Saturday night. When you see red lights, but there's no flags, but you still have to roll, or do I not roll? Do I jump? It's a weird scenario, and I know a lot of people were upset. I think rightfully so. And unfortunately, I don't really think it mattered too much in the 450 class, but it definitely taints what should have been a feel good moment for Pierce Brown getting his first win. And now you have so many people going out there like, man, Joe deserved it, and Joe put on a great show. But I want to hear your perspective because it's one of those things. Like I said, if we had clearer rules, and I know they said they're going to review the process, but I feel like they should try to keep it simple. I feel like that is the way to go usually in the sport. If you go out there with flags, because I think back to, and it's been a long time ago in NASCAR now, but when they first developed their caution light systems, there was one race where the caution lights randomly came on and nothing had happened. They ended up throwing the yellow from the flag stand, but the lights just triggered with no reason. Nobody spun. There was no debris on the track. The lights just randomly triggered and went off in the middle of a race, and everybody had to slow down and wait. I would like your opinion on this because I'm not 100% sure what to think other than the fact that we need a bit more clarity and the riders need to know, do I need to watch out for the flags? Do I need to watch for lights? Or do I have to watch for both and really have more things to think about other than a race?
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. I think it definitely hurt Shimoda. I think Shimoda probably wins that race if that doesn't happen, which that's such a bummer. Um, but I also like I think that what they came out with was pretty clear. Like, look, the lights are an indicator that there is a flag in the area, but there was no flag shown. So like it's kind of like the AMA kind of put it out there like, look, you don't really have to listen to the lights, but then okay, so then if there's a flag, right, and the lights aren't on, you have to listen to the flag. So it's kind of like, all right, well, the flag is what stands. Okay, like that makes some sense. The lights are just an indicator. But then when the flag's out and the lights aren't on, the flag doesn't matter. So it's like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's like it's crazy how it happened two times, like in like right back to back, similar situations where like the red cross is out, but the red lights aren't on. The lights are on, but the red cross ain't out. So it's like I don't get it. Like it's very weird, and I don't love how they hold it. Like the flagger should be very like potent. Like, look, here's
Yeah.
the cross flag. Like
And
you just
usually, I think real quick to jump in, like I think of the guy waving the flag, and there's usually a guy on the other side doing the like wheels on the ground motion, like pointing for the guys, hey, you got to roll this. And at this situation, like you said with the 250 main, the lights are on, and like I mentioned, the flagger's just standing there like, why are the lights on, bro? What's happening?
yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure how they work it. If somebody's in I'm sure that AMA officials that are in press boxes or whatever watching the race and that can turn on a light, at a push of a button. It's like, do we know who that guy is, and why was he not, paying attention to that? Like, do you click a button, and have to click it to turn off, or like, do you have to hold the button for as long as the guy's there? Like, I'm very confused on like how that all process works. I'd love to know. I think the AMA could clear a little bit of air and be like, look, here's what happened. Here's who made the mistake, and this is what they didn't do. Whatever. Um, and I know they communicate like pretty regularly throughout the track with the flaggers and stuff like that. Like they all have radios in their helmets, and they all have radios like headsets on and what stuff like that, so they can talk. Um, but it's very like I don't really understand it a whole lot. It's hard to comprehend what they kind of released with saying the red lights are there to indicate that there's something wrong, or you're going to see a red cross flag. So Joe, in his mind, he made the right decision. Okay, we have to roll this next jump, but there's no red cross. So then it's and that corner was so blind, like the berm was so big on the backside, like
Yeah.
you couldn't see the finish line until
It is
you
a
got over
long.
that double. So it's like these guys are focused on their line choice, and then they get up to the finish line, and they're like, "Oh crap, there's a red cross flag." You won't see that, and then the lights, I guess, are there to help. And Joe did see him, so that's good that they're not invisible, right? But just the sometimes the track design layout, like I think they could have swung that corner out maybe a little bit further to give them a little bit more run up to the finish line. Like there was more space for stuff like that. Um, it's just such a vague gray area to kind of like make a decision on. I think we looked at decisions in the past. I looked directly at like Chase in Detroit where Dean was off. I don't think there was a red cross flag, but the red lights were on. And he got penalized 5 points. I'm not 100% sure on that, but similar situation. You don't see the guy until you turn that corner. That Detroit corner was like right out of a 90, right up the face. So it's very very interesting on how it all works. But um, nonetheless, I mean, it sucks for Joe. I think the 251 is a little bit different than the 450 main because Hunter didn't get passed, and that's it's in that scenario. But like we saw in St. Louis a few years ago, like a bunch of guys jumped on the Red Cross, everybody got penalized. It's like
Yeah.
probably what should have
Cost
happened.
Jet a
Like,
win. Wow.
yeah,
That and him getting absolutely smoked by Barsha, but
well, that too, yeah. But nonetheless, it does. It costs people money. It costs points. It costs all that things that we look back at the end of the year in like 250 class. Like, what if Pierce Brown wins his title over Joe Schmoto by 2 points?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like if I look back at that scenario directly and say this is what cost Joe the championship, and it's a malfunction on the AMA's part. So like, I would feel really bad if it boils down to something like that. So it's tough. It's really really tough. I don't know how they can fix it. I think they can do things to make it a little bit better. Maybe add some more flaggers with that ability to kind of have like you need to almost have a flagger in the corner with the red cross flag like waving, or like lights at the end of the whoop section or something like lights before like when these guys like have multiple indicators leading up to a red cross flag. Um, and then two, it's like so the red cross flag is on the finish line. The jump before it, are you able to double that or no? Like that's another thing too. It's like if the red lights aren't in the red cross flag, can you double that little double before the finish? Like stuff like that too. Like you always think about now, it's like very like unclear on what you can and can't do based on the AMA's decision or whatever they decided to come out
Yeah.
with and what they explained. So it's very very weird. I think it'll smooth over, but I really do hope that. I mean, I personally think they should have deducted Pierce the points. I don't know if they should have deducted in the win. Like we've seen in the past with Chase winning in Detroit, they didn't take the win away, but they took away points. So that's what I think they should have done. And then a similar situation in Hunter's scenario where you take away 5 points. It's like that simple. And same thing with Hunter. Like if Hunter didn't jump the jump, he saw it. So why couldn't the other guys see it? Like it's and but we're not. That's where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I kind of agree with Honda's point on this. Like it doesn't make any sense because they're getting the short end of the stick in this scenario by a long shot. Like everybody else has got three, meter sticks, and they got a little ruler. So it's tough. It's tough. So I'm very interested to see what they decide to clarify or what they decide to come out with because I think there needs to be another statement or like another riders meeting where like, hey, look, here's the rules, guys. Like they almost need to have like a rules meeting at the beginning of each race, which they do that. Like they do talk about that stuff, but it's the simplistic stuff of like that. But it almost needs to be like an in-depth meeting, sitting down where everybody's focused. They're not like on the track and they're in different spots where everybody's listening and everybody's in the same place at the same time. Everybody's together in like almost like a classroom setting where they can look, hey, look, this is the rules, this is blah 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 blah. You can read it right here. Here's a packet with all the information. Make sure you're set it up on it, and this is what we're gonna go by. So I mean, I know they do that stuff, but like they don't do like the whole individual sitting down or whatever it is. But I think that stuff needs to probably happen. Um, but yeah, that's all I really got on it. It definitely sucks to say that Joe, because I was very shocked at how well Joe rode, and to him coming back to probably what should have been a win would have been massive for Joe, and I think it puts a stamp on the championship for him. Not being 100%, and it's gonna be an interesting next couple weekends, man. It's gonna be fun to watch, and I'm excited.
I think no matter what way they go with this, you have to consider the safety of the riders. That's the most important thing. Obviously, in this case, nobody was actually down, but I think that's the most important thing. And I feel like Joe was saying something about that. He's like, what if we have a guy down? What happens there? But I think Honda has every right to be mad, Joe as well. But we're going to go ahead and transition into the actual race recaps. And of course, we've mentioned a lot about the 250 class. Pierce Brown gets his first career win. A long time coming for him. Almost happened at Tampa last year. He was in the catbird seat until he went down in the whoops, but he finally gets that win a year later after a long, hard year of recovery. Joe Shimoda second. He looked a little stiff, a little wonky in qualifying and press day. He just didn't look very comfortable. But then when the race time, I heard Steve Mathis say that he talked to Joe a little bit. I think it was either on Friday or afternoon or Saturday morning, and Joe told him racers race. And that's what happened. Joe qualifies 15th, but he goes out there during the main event, leads early, of course, gets second. Daxton Bennick, third consecutive podium in a season opener, his third podium total. Cole Davies might have been the star of the night, honestly. Although those other guys put together great rides, Cole was on another level, and I know he went down early and didn't get a chance to show that in the main event because he was on that start straight crash with Nate Thrasher, Luke Clout, Marshall Welton, Caden Dudney. 3 out of the 4 star Yamaha guys go down in one crash. But Pierce survives and ends up extending the streak. 7 straight star Yamaha wins to start the year in the 250 class as well. Pro Circuit Kawasaki is the only other team that's ever done that back in 2007, I believe, which was the year they had Villapoto and Ben Townley winning everything. But what a night for the star team. Cole Davies, like I mentioned, just ripping through the pack, watching him fly through the field. It was like it was nothing. He looked like the fastest guy on the track. I haven't looked at the lap times and examined them closely, but he was the best guy in the whoops. Of course, Chad Reed was talking about that on Instagram. He's like, look at this guy blitzing the whoops. At one point, Cole went from ninth to sixth on the same lap because he passed Cullen Park, Devin Simonson, and Cody Schock within the span of like 20 seconds. Blew by all of them. If it was a longer race, if that was a 20-minute race, Cole Davies might win the thing at the rate he was going. And it caught and passed Drew Adams. He was starting to get closer to that front four, but just ran out of time. I was really, really impressed with Cole's ride. Even though he was down on the first straightaway, we've seen that before in the East Openers. I think back a couple years ago to Detroit. I think Hayden Deegan, Tom Vial, Cameron McAdoo were all down on the start. Of course, Tom ends up winning the championship. He only gets a couple points. For Cole to salvage a fifth out of it is a huge deal. He's still in the thick of this thing. Great to see Pierce Brown get that first win, though. A bummer for Joe, but I think a second he was talking in the press conference. He's like, I would have been happy with top 10. And he goes out there and he gets P2 in his return to action. A lot to talk about from the 250 main event. I was very happy to see Pierce up there, of course, getting a little bit more insight before his race weekend and his win, but a very interesting 250 class race. And you think about it, it's the first one, a lot to unfold. Daytona this weekend, a big East Coast stretch coming up. I don't know how much of the 250 main event you were able to catch, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the racing action.
Yeah, no, I watched the race. I wasn't able to watch the main event. I was back at the pit breaking down stuff, but I did watch it on TV. Right, watched the replay last night, and no, it was a really good race. I think the battle for the lead was good. I think Joe was out front pretty much from the start until that little jump there. But I will say this: I was very impressed with Daxton Bennick. He was the only rider I saw consistently hitting that 3.34 on a 250 in the main event. Well, I saw some other guys busted out during qualifying and stuff like that. But for him to be doing that the whole race, that's what kept him in third. I don't think he had the speed. Like he was losing ground everywhere else but there. But he was gaining there. Like he would lose touch, get right back to him before the whoop section and that rhythm. And it was very impressive to see. I was very stoked on how he rode. I did pick him for the podium, so I was impressed with how everything went. It was a very one line track, like one rhythm. It was kind of like if you made a mistake, you lost a lot of time. There wasn't a whole lot of alternate rhythms in the whole race. Like it was pretty tough to kind of gain a lot of track position, being that it was so one line. But somehow it turned out to be quite the race in both of 250 and 450 class, surprisingly, which I was very pleased with. I think just part of it too with how gnarly the whoops were. Like this was the first race I feel like the whoops were like a legitimate separator, which is always cool to see, you know. So they did become jumpers, but some guys stuck with the skim. Like I was talking to Cullen a little bit yesterday, and he was telling me like, yeah, like you know, stuck to the skim and like it worked for a while. Like I was beating guys, like I was catching him in the whoops, but then like it obviously bit him at the end where he went from I
Mm-hmm.
think seventh to ninth. So
Yeah.
it was a game that was dangerous, and I think it bit some guys, and then it also helped some guys like Ken Roxon constantly going back and forth between jumping and skimming. You'd see where the skim at the beginning of the race really helped him out a lot, where it was he would gain time there and stay out front. So it was good for that perspective. And I think it was the same in the 250 class. It was a mix of both. Joe had a good line right away in the whoops where he was jumping the double and then doubling into the whoops kind of and was able to get a good rhythm going there. So I think it was a cool that was the only part of the track that was very different. That I feel like that you don't really see that too often with whoops. It's typically one or the other, where that one felt like it was a bit of both. So yeah, no, it was cool to watch. I was very very impressed, and yeah, I think Pierce had a great race. I think he looked good in his heat race too. I think and he qualified fast as well. So
Yep.
it was all around a great day for Pierce Brown, and I think he deserved that win. I don't think it was undeserved. I think he could have maybe had something for Joe later in the race too, being that Joe is coming off a bit of an injury. But you know, I was super super impressed, especially with a guy like Cole Davies who, like you said, went down the first corner, hard crash, gets back up, charges back to fifth. And I mean, in the heat race, that man was absolutely flying.
Yeah.
He was better in the whoops than anybody on the track that touched the track that night in the whoops. Like it was insane how good he was. And like you said, like he made a pass or he made he made a pass in 23 guys in 20 seconds like of the track. Like that's pretty darn impressive. And that's the thing with this East Coast class. It's really hard to compared to like the West, where like I've been saying, like the middle of the pack guys, like the outside the top five to like probably 12, 13, they're all really, really solid dudes. Like I think that you take some of those five to eight guys on the East Coast and put them in the West, they're consistently in the top five. Um, so yeah, no, I was wicked impressed with how well Cole rode, and I think if he did start up front, it would have been really, really hard for anybody to have anything for him.
Definitely.
I also want to give props to Seth Hamaker, who I believe in that first corner. What I talked to him a little bit after the race, he split his finger wide open. Like he had like a huge bandage on two of his fingers, and he rode through that, which I thought was pretty tough. And I don't think anybody's going to know about that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
think it'll
unaware.
hinder him. But nonetheless, he rode really, really well. And I think for Seth to come away with fourth, I was like, you know, you can't win the championship on night one, but you can definitely lose it. And you did a good job not doing that. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, man. I'm just, looking to get this thing healed and get back back next weekend. So I think it's not I don't think it's anything that'll hold him back, but was dealing with something kind of lingering, which is why I don't think he was necessarily right in that dogfight for the win. Um, so I do want to give props to him, and obviously that whole top five, I think that'll be the top five, going forward. I think you can probably throw in a Nate Thrasher win here or there, and maybe a Drew Adams podium or something like that. But so that's the thing about this East Coast that's going to be interesting is that there's definitely guys in the back of the pack that didn't have great nights that I think will be up on that podium, competing for wins alongside some of the guys that we saw this past, obviously this weekend on the podium. So I'm interested to see. I'm hoping Dax can continue the momentum. It seems to be like he has a much momentum after leaving round one, but he just doesn't seem to carry it over. I'm hoping he can do that in Daytona because I think he has a good chance of getting a win or two. And he obviously is in the fight for the championship as well. I think that's what he wants, and yeah, no, I think it's a good place to be in if I'm Dax Bennick. It's where you wanted to start the season off. I think being in a podium position. Same with Joe Shimoda. I mean, being in second, you know. bummer about the whole red cross situation or the red light situation, but I think you can look at the positives and say we finished the night in second. Like it's a whole lot better than what I think he would have planned. And I think everybody can't really complain about their night given the circumstances. So I think everybody's leaving Arlington with some sort of momentum going into Daytona.
I agree with that statement. And then you move to the 450 class, and what a season so far, man. Another absolute classic main event. Ken Roxon gets out front, and almost immediately, it's Roxon, Lawrence, Webb, Tomac, nose to tail, and an incredible night of racing. Ken Roxon holds the lead, but you see them start to inch closer, and Hunter Lawrence is there. He went for it once or twice, but wasn't able to get it done. He goes for it about 6 minutes left. I know this because of the article I wrote yesterday about Lawrence's comments about the lapper. Hunter has an amazing run. Kenny's jumping the whoops. Hunter's blitzing, but Jordan Smith gets in the way, so Hunter has to check up a little bit. But half a lap later, Hunter wasn't to be denied, and he got around him. And then it seemed like the bleeding started for Ken Roxon because as soon as he got passed by Hunter Lawrence, here comes Cooper Webb, here comes Eli Tomac, and then Eli gets both guys in the same lap. A little bit of a bump to Cooper Webb, a little aggressive, forcing him off the track a little bit. That's twice this season. I think we've seen Eli Tomac be like, "Oh crap, I got to go for it now." He did it to Jason Anderson. I think it was Anaheim too. Did it to Ken Roxon, or not Ken Roxon, Cooper Webb in Arlington. But Hunter Lawrence, after so many second place finishes, he's finally a 450 Supercross winner, the 70th man to accomplish that feat. Second place for Eli Tomac. He did lose a few points. It was only 3 points at the end. Now Hunter's lead to four. Cooper Webb, another podium. Ken Roxon slipped back to fourth. Pretty bad for his championship hopes, I think. And speaking of championship hopes, Chase Sexton, I thought he was in trouble before. He's really in trouble now because he's more than a race out of the championship lead. Another night of sixth place finish, I believe, for Chase. Not ideal, especially when the front four are out there in the championship fight or front four in the race. But Hunter finally gets it done. Battles all night. Such a fun race to watch from the press box. Lots of eager faces up in the press box wanting to see a great race and so many moments and close calls between lappers and tight battles between Kenny and Hunter. What a race is all I can say. It's one of the best races I've seen in person so far during my time covering the sport. Pittsburgh last year was probably my favorite with Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton and that pressure that Cooper had to deal with, but he held it off. I think that topped it because what an insane race that was. And finally, Hunter Lawrence is a 450 Supercross main event winner.
Yeah, and I don't think it could have came at a better time, to be completely honest with you. I think if he doesn't win there, it's going to be really tough to win a lot of other places. I think just for a momentum stance, having the red plate and being able to win with it, like that's a step that a champion has to make. And to win the title, I think, like I've been saying all year, Daytona's that changing race where everything can kind of change. So he's able to kind of have a big momentum swing, I think, going into Daytona. Because I think whoever leaves Daytona with the red plate is going to win this title. I really do believe that, whether it's Tomac, Webb, or Hunter Lawrence. I think those are the three guys we can kind of narrow it down to now, to be really, in the fight for this title at round 17. Obviously, anything can happen, but I do think that this upcoming weekend in Daytona is going to be huge for the 450 class. And I think this weekend was just as big. I think Hunter Lawrence getting to build on his points gap, Tomac having a championship esque ride, being that he was under the pressure, had to pass Cooper Webb and Ken Roxon, got it done as soon as he could, put the pressure on Hunter Lawrence. It was very impressive to see Tomac do that, and I think Tomac is putting himself right there with Hunter. It's not like he's losing, tons of ground anywhere, and he needs to make sure he can continue to be inside that top three every weekend if Hunter's up there. But I do think it'll be a back and forth race the rest of this year. I think Cooper Webb's still in this thing. I don't think we can count him out. Um, Ken Roxon, I don't think he has what it takes to win the title. Unfortunately, I just think he doesn't have the endurance as a guy like Hunter, Tomac, and Webb kind of do late in the season when it gets tough. And I don't think Chase Sexton's going to be, unless he wins out, like it's going to be really tough for a guy like that to come back. So, um, but he also, like with Chase, I think he can play spoiler. Like I don't think he's going to be
Yeah.
fighting for the title, but I know he wants to win still. So those kind of races, I think like we can watch out for. When we get to like later on in the season when it gets ruddy and tracks that Chase are typically good at, he starts to be perform at like Nashville stuff like that. Um, but yeah, no, it was an unbelievable race, top to bottom. I mean, just to see, if you didn't hit your marks perfectly, how quickly the track would swallow you up and spit you out in a different spot. So we saw it a couple times with Cooper Webb when he missed that on tabletop, or when he went inside and would make a little bit of mistake, or kind of would hit the corner a little bit wrong. Like just little things like that. Now it's like really what it's going to stack up to. I think is who can be the cleanest, most consistent rider over these next 10 races is going to win you the championship. Like you cannot falter at all in these races, and if you do, these guys will eat you up. Like it's not just two guys battling now. It's four to five guys, battling for the podium and the win. It's like it's really hard to compete, for against four other guys. So if you make a little mistake, it eats you up, and we saw it happen with Cooper Webb. But just to touch back on Tomac, for him to be able to go out and be kind of behind the pace a little bit, didn't seem to have the speed to hang with Hunter Lawrence, but to turn it on in the last 5 to 10 minutes, like and be able to get past those guys and kind of assert himself back in there. It's a like I said, a championship esque ride. So I'm very interested to see how Daytona goes. Tomac's the king of Daytona, man. Like I think he's gonna win this weekend in Daytona. I think if Hunter Lawrence can stay right there with him, I think it's going to be a continuous fight to the end with those two. Um, but yeah, man, I'm just excited for this weekend in Daytona. I think it's going to be a huge, huge championship swing to whoever can win that race. If Tomac can take the red plate there, I think it's going to be really tough for Hunter to get it back. But at the same time, Hunter just got his first win, so hopefully the momentum keeps building. But if Hunter keeps doing what he's doing now, I don't think he can lose it.
It's going to be so much fun to watch throughout the year. At least I hope it is. Seesaw battle every week. I think we talk about it. Hunter gains a few points. Eli gains a few points back. Hunter gains a few points. It just keeps repeating the same patterns over and over, no matter what the results are. But we are going into Eli Tomac territory. He has the most wins all time at Daytona. It's definitely an Eli Tomac round. Hunter Lawrence has been solid at Daytona in the past, but you can't compete against a guy who has 7 wins, I believe, there for Eli standards. Before we go in toward the predictions segment of our show, I don't know if you have any other observations from Arlington before we move on, but I'll just quickly mention Joey Savacci's ripping, man. He's not on a factory bike, but that dude is flying. He was running second in his heat race to Hunter Lawrence for most of the race. Then he gets passed by Eli Tomac, but Joey's like, you know what? I'm not letting this slide. And he goes back around Eli Tomac. And I was really impressed. I know it's just a heat race. And I know Joey has a ton of success in World Supercross, a little bit shorter races, but Joey is ripping. He was flying off his bike at the end of the whoops during the main event and still gets up and gets seventh. I think that was pretty impressive. Mookie went down really hard. I don't know if the broadcast caught it. I don't believe so because my dad asked me what happened to Mookie, but he was coming off of that banana table, whatever you would like to call it. I don't know if he cross-rutted, spun, what happened, but all of a sudden I just saw him pitch forward and land really hard. He got back up, thankfully, finished 11th. Mookie's had a lot of crashes this year, man. A lot of big ones. Unfortunate because we thought he could be a contender to steal some wins after the way he rode in Paris. So many guys that were ripping that were kind of under the radar. 250 class, like I mentioned, Cole Davies was just on another level. I think that 7 through 9 range, I think it's going to be really interesting, especially Cody Schock and Cullen Park, I think, are going to be battling all year. And apparently there have been some debates from around motocross media of who could be better there. I think Park was the better man, but unfortunately went down in the whoops. Him and Cody are going to be the best privateer guys. But Devin Simonson deserves a shout out too. He missed the first half of last year. He's been a Supercross only guy the last couple of years. 8th place, matching his career best finish in the opener. That's a huge step for him. Kyle Peters, P10. KP hasn't run full-time AMA Supercross since 2022. He goes out there. Apparently, he said he's a bit rusty, but I think that's pretty good if you're getting a 10th place and you feel rusty. He's doing it on his own right now, but I think if any team comes calling for a fill-in guy, that's absolutely who they should go to first. Kyle Peters was looking great out there. Don't know how many other observations you have, but there was a few for me. It's fun to be back at the races. A great night of racing once again. We've been very spoiled as race fans this year. Apart from a couple pretty standard, pretty boring 250 main events, this has been a season that could contend for one of the all-time seasons if this continues.
Yeah, no, I do want to give a shout out to a guy like Kyle Peters. That was the first name that came to my mind when you said that. I mean, I think it was his kind of style of track with the whoops being jumpers. He's one of the best at jumping whoops, I think. In the 250 class, and for him to not be having raced Supercross in so long, um, to be right there in 10th, I mean, it's pretty darn impressive. So, I mean, he did have World Supercross, so that was good for him.
Yes.
But to be able to jump on that on a Yamaha and what seems to be last minute, from what I've
Yeah.
heard, uh, to go out there and get 10th is pretty darn impressive. I think there is more in the tank there. Um, yeah, and a big shout out to Devin Simonson as well. He obviously he had some good results last year, with the field being pretty weak and stuff like that, and he did have some good raw speed, and I was very impressed with him. I think that club bike is working really, really well for him. And what seems to be like he could be pretty successful, kind of like Yoder, man. Like he kind of gave
Yeah.
me, like I didn't expect a whole lot from Yoder, like coming into the West Coast, and he very much impressed me with how well he's ridden. Um, so yeah, I was pretty shocked that Simonson was into the top 10 to be completely fair with you. So yeah, I think Jaleel Swoll's got more in the tank as well. Swoll looked good in that heat race. I think Dudney's got something for these guys too. I think Caden Dudney, he kind of reminds me like he rides a little bit like Deegan. Just kind of like lets it hang out, revs the bike a lot, you know, hits the big lines, like kind of gives me like flashbacks of Deegan, like just a little bit like of how his style of riding is. And he looked impressive in the heat race. He wasn't he wasn't rolling over for anybody. He was fighting really hard. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to kind of like settle down a little bit in the class. I think that's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Because I think he can get kind of caught up in some stuff sometimes, just with getting kind of anxious or whatever. Around some of these guys. But yeah, no, I think the 250 class is shaping up to be really, really good. There's going to be a lot of spoilers, which I think is something we don't get to see on the West Coast. So I'm very excited to see how it all plays out. And yeah, I hope we can see some good battles, going forward. I think Daytona is going to bring some. That track always seems to bring some heat, so I'm excited for that. And in the 450 class, like you said, Joey Savacci's been riding really, really well. To go out and straight up past Tomac, that's pretty dang hard feat to do nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
So that, and I want to say Anderson always impresses me just with how good he is on the bike, but he seems to be finding the ground a lot, unfortunately. But I think that Anderson has a podium in him this year. I hope he gets it
Yeah.
done sooner than later. Um, but yeah, no, I was very impressed by some of the guys that didn't have maybe the greatest finishes in Arlington.
Caden Dudney. Press day, man, watching him up in the booth, he was tossing over the finish line every single time he come around. If there was a best whip comp out on press day, dude was throwing it every single time, whether he's doing turn downs, oppos, the kid was sending it every time. There's a couple good style whips there on press day as well. I'll give a shout out to Gavin Towers and Derek Kelly. They had some nice style, a little bit of steez, you could say. But moving on now, actually, real quick, we did get a question last week, and I know you were showing me a little bit before the show. Shout out to CKY Moto, one of our biggest supporters here on the Stire Sound, was asking about your helmets in the background. Unfortunately, as you can see, I have nothing cool to display like you do. You showed me a little bit. That monster one on the right side is a Chase Sexton Team Honda HRC helmet. So I don't know if you could quickly explain some of these helmets, but we got a question about it. Feel free to send in questions for those who watch on YouTube. We'll try to respond to you. Sometimes I'll go in the comments and to respond to some things, but that's a nice looking monster claw lid there.
Oh yeah, so Chase being one of my good buddies, he when he left Honda, he had these sitting in his garage, and I was like, dude, can I get one of these? And he's like, yeah, man. I'm like, I'm just gonna hang it up, like I want it for my house. So yeah, he gave me one of each, signed it, and it's pretty cool. I don't think anybody really has any of these, which is pretty sick. But me and Chase are good buddies, and it's a little
Got the
memorabilia to
Jordan
hold on
style
to.
print too in the name, which is
Yeah, it's pretty
sick.
sweet. I want to say he won a race in this helmet. I'm not sure which one, but I think might have been. Um, I don't remember. It was early on in his Honda career when he just Silent Monster. So because typically he runs like the white interior now, which is what we'll see him run mostly, I would think. So this had to be one of like I believe from his like second year with Monster, I think it was. So this is a pretty older style helmet. But I know I'm pretty sure he won a race in this thing, so that's pretty cool. This other one, it's just a Rockstar Flylid from my buddy Gillum, who used to race for Husqvarna. When I was he actually asked me to go clear out his locker at Baker's, but when he left, when he found out he wasn't going to be re-signed, and he wanted me to send a bunch of his stuff back to Spain. So I was like, he had like 3 or 4 of these sitting there, and I was like, man, they'd be pretty sick to have. And he's like, yeah, man, go ahead and take one, dude. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I got another one to add to the collection, and yeah, I mean, maybe I can add a Red Bull lid to kind of finish off the energy drink stuff. But
Energy drink
those are pretty hard
trifecta.
to come by. But no, it's pretty sweet. I think it's something that you can hang up and people ask questions about it. So it's cool to see people recognizing the small stuff. But I did not ride for any of these things. I know the guy was like, "What did you do in your racing career?" I didn't race, so um, yeah,
Still some pretty cool memorabilia to have there. And we thank you once again for the questions. Like I've said, feel free to ask us questions, whether we get to it in the comment section, whether we get to it on the next episode. We appreciate your feedback and you checking in, asking us some questions, giving us a little bit more to talk about. So thank you for that. Now we are going to start moving into the predictions. And actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to pull up the entry list once again because we did that last week. I don't expect to see too many changes, but just to briefly run through, see if anything is up. And also, SMX Next is back this weekend. So another thing to look out for. Caden Dudney now in the pro ranks, so that should be a little bit different there. And then I will do this. Share screen. There we go. I am screen sharing. Here we are. Entry list for Daytona. Let's see if there's any changes. 55 on the 250 class list. I think we got a couple more. Poor Gio. I hope he's able to recover because, man, it was a tough weekend for him. Some other guys, Cochran, I still not sure if he's racing. Probably not. Still recovering. You probably have a lot better idea than I do. But overall, this looks very similar to what we just saw. A couple other guys I see. Bryson Raymond didn't race. Carter Bees. Jack Rogers is back. J-Rock in the mix this weekend. But very standard look. Braden Aylerman is back as well. He's a rookie. He's on Lorenzo Locurcio's Wildcat team in the 450 class. Obviously, this isn't finalized. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. Ty Masterpool, we'll see if he's back. Unfortunately, missed Arlington. Not sure what happened there. Oh, look at that. Aiden Shive, 450 class on a KTM. Don't know if he would be riding the 250 or not. Ricky Randonella, Ricky's first name in all caps for some reason. Jared Lesher's back. Hopefully, we get some two smoker action. This is cool. Bobby Fitch on the entry list. And if you're unaware, McCaden Fitch down here in SMX Next, that is his son. So we're going to have a father-son duo racing this weekend. That's pretty cool. And here's the next entry list. A lot of familiar names on here. Owen Koval is back. MX6 race. Oh, it says Yamaha, so I'm not real sure. It says MX6, but shows Yamaha. Most of the guys, Way, of course, is back. Jessen Turner. Caden Manier should be back. Aiden Kiefer in there. I know a lot of people know that name. So interesting to see little Kiefer there. Dane Morales, who I believe just won the AMA Arena Cross 250 class championship. So shout out to Dane, Seth Dennis. I heard a lot about this kid this weekend talking with Crockett Myers and some folks over at the EBR team. I'm not sure how to say his name, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But the number 170 from Mexico, EBR team, Cade Johnson, Landon Gordon, Deacon Dino, a lot of heavy hitters right there. Gavin Betts, MX6. Alvin Hillen's back. He ran good at Daytona last year with the SLR Honda team. Ashton Aldman, I talked to him on Unsung Heroes a couple weeks ago. He's back in there. Diesel Thomas, I think, is pretty underrated. He's a really solid racer. Excited to see him back on the gate. But there are some of your entry list notes. Don't know if there's anything that stands out to you there. Any thoughts before we move to predictions?
I just know Casey's not racing, so that's one that we can scratch off
Okay,
that list.
gotcha. I didn't figure, but I know they like to have the entries in there. Unfortunate. Hopefully we see Casey back soon. Now moving over to the predictions. There you see it. Another great week for Jack in Arlington. Pierce
You
Brown
did get the
gets the win.
podium right though.
Yeah, I did.
Just
Wrong
wrong
order,
order.
but I did have Webb, Hunter Tomac. This Hunter Tomac Webb. But hey, we got it in there. Randoms. I was so close, man. I'm right there on the edge of it every single week. Joey gets seventh. Drew gets sixth. The random was eighth, as you see. I always put in italics the guys who were the actual eighth place finishers: Devin Simonson, AP. Jason Anderson probably could have been eighth place, but unfortunately he went down and was kicking his bike for like 3 laps. Cullen Park was in seventh, then crashed, went down to ninth. He lost too many spots for your standards. But I'll try to go ahead, copy everything over. See here. Oh, I also didn't do the points totals, so I'll do that real quick. I had 125, 5 points for getting a podium spot, but not in the right place. So that's 20 points there. That puts me on 145. Then we get 10 points if we nail our predictions. So 10, 20, 30, 35 for Jack. And that's more of a lead. That's a 40-point lead for you now, man. You're getting away from me already, but anything can happen. We're going to go ahead, get into our predictions. Once again, I probably should have copied this over before, but I've been working on some other stuff this morning as well. Be sure to check out my Unsung Heroes this week. I talked to Derek Kelly from MX6 Racing. Pretty good conversation with him, so check out my Unsung Heroes show, which should be out on all platforms that the Stire Sound is on. Random Spot is not friendly this week, by the way. I always try to make sure we get a different one every week this season. We're gonna have fun this week. 20th place for random spot. Oh, the look on your face. I mean, we look at this. We've had a lot of mid pack 10, 12, 4th, 16th, 14th, 11th, 20th place. Not very kind. I'll go ahead and get into things in my 250 class podium. I always like to work my way up. Third place this weekend, I've got Joe Shimoda. I think he was great at Arlington, a little bit better than expected, but I think he's going to be third this weekend. Second place, I'm going to go Seth Hamaker once again. I think Seth Hamaker will be on the podium at some point this weekend. And for first place, the Star Yamaha streak is going to continue. Pierce Brown has a podium at Daytona in the past, but it's not going to be him. Cole Davies, after the way he ripped, I feel stupid for leaving him off the podium. But Nate Thrasher, I think we're going to have more chaos, baby. Nate Thrasher is good on speedways. He was the top Star Yamaha guy in the playoffs last year, and of course, a lot of hybrid tracks there. He won his first two main events at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Nate Thrasher has won a race in his Supercross career at least once every single season so far. I think Nate Thrasher at some point, he's going to do it for sure, but I think Daytona could be his best bet. We're early in the season. Nothing's really settled, even though we have a good idea of who the contenders are going to be. I'm going out on a limb here. It's going to happen at some point, but I got Nate Thrasher winning and then 20th place, dude. Are you kidding me? Oh, man. There's so many guys it could be in the 250 class. There are a lot of really good guys, and then what if somebody goes down? What if somebody crashes? It's one of those things. It's like, do I pick a guy who I think could finish 20th on pace, or do I pick a guy who I think goes down and crashes and finishes 20th? That's a really good question. I'm going to go with, and I know he's better than the 20th place guy, but I'm going to go Luke Nice for 20th on the Storm Lake Honda machine. I don't know. That's a hard place to pick. If it was outdoors, it'd be a little easier because you're right there on the edge of points. You got a couple, maybe three or four if you're going overall, maybe on a different day, six or seven. But Luke Nice, like I said, this is a really weird spot to pick because am I picking for pace or am I picking to say, oh, this guy's going to DNF and screw up this week? So those are my 250 picks. As you see, I did a great job in Arlington. I liked my swole pick right up until I got to the track, and then I saw the whoops, and I'm like, yeah, Jalik Swole's not winning. So here we are, Daytona. What you got for the 250 class, Jack?
I'm gonna go pretty simple. I'm gonna go Cole Davies to win. I don't think that anybody's gonna have anything for him if he gets a good start. Second, I'm gonna go Shimoda again. I think Shimoda's gonna be right there with him. Third place, I'm going Seth Hamaker. I'm gonna pick a pretty simple podium. I think it's
Yep.
gonna be simple in Daytona. I don't think it's gonna be anything crazy, but I do think Davies will get out front and win. 20th. Now that's tough. Now that is tough.
Yeah, I rolled that and I was like, oh no.
It's just so tough because there's so like probably 8 or 9 guys that you could pick that
Yep.
either make the main or not make the main, and it's like you almost got to pick like you got to hope that they make the main event.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick my guy Jace Kessler. So I'm gonna
All
pick
right.
him. He made the main event last year in Daytona. I'm hoping he does a little bit better than 20th, but if he's in the main, I will be stoked. That'll be great. I'll just go right to my 450 spots if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
Number one, I'm going Eli Tomac. Eli Tomac gets it done in Daytona once again. That guy's unbelievable there. I think he's going to be unbelievable again there this weekend. I think it's going to be a great race. Second place, I have Ken Roxon in second this weekend. I think he'll be good there. I think it'll be a track where he's solid. And then for third, I'm picking Chase Sexton on my podium. I do it a lot.
No Hunter Lawrence.
It
Wow.
doesn't seem to do me very well when I do pick my buddy Chase. But I think this track kind of has a little bit of forgiveness whenever it comes to bike setup. It can be tough to set up, but it can also be a forgiving thing because nobody's ever going to be spot on at Daytona, I don't think. So I think if he, I know they're testing this week in Florida. I think they're going to have the bike in a good spot. I'm excited to see how he does in Daytona. I think he'll be. I don't. The biggest thing for him, I feel like, too, is starts. He doesn't seem to ever get a good start
Yeah.
because he honestly had good pace in Arlington, but I think he gets a better start than we've seen. And yeah, I think he's going to get third. I think that's I feel like that's good for him if he can get third. I think that's a good weekend
Definitely
for.
a step in the right direction.
That's a good for the Cowie crew. So what do you? And then for 20th in the 450 class, fuck, I don't even. Grant Harlan. I think I'm gonna go Grant Harlan for this one. I think that's a safe pick. Grant could honestly get 12th though, and I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? Because like it's an
Yeah.
outdoor track, and he's pretty good. He's like dang near an outdoor track, and he's pretty dang good on outdoors. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I think that's my picks. I think Harlan will be up there too.
Yeah. 20th place, like I said, this is definitely the hardest. I mean, random spot's always hard because it's one guy, make or break. You get it or you don't. As you can see, of course, Crockett Myers and Glendale, the one and only prediction either one of us have got right. We just have about as good of a track record as the Rocky Mountain Privateer payout because we're 1 for 14 so far. I think that one is 3 for 14, the Rocky Mountain payout. My Daytona podium, third overall, first podium of the year. It's Daytona, man. Do it for Dale. Aaron Plessinger is going to rip a hole shot, get out front for a little bit. I think we're going to see AP on the podium. He loves Daytona. He always has good vibes there. Of course, we just had the 25th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt's passing. He's going to do it for Dale. AP is going to get himself a podium. I wanted to put Chase third, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with a surprise there. My top two, I got Hunter Lawrence second. I know the recent history has not gone my way in past weeks. I've said, like, oh, Seattle, Cooper Webb's won there the last 2 years. I picked Cooper Webb. He's so good at Arlington. I picked Cooper Webb there. History has not worked for me the past couple weeks, but I think I'd be pretty stupid if I picked against Eli Tomac at Daytona, regardless of what happens. I got to have ET3 number one. Then 20th place, I'm going to go Tristan Lane. Tristan Lane, three main event starts in the last few weeks. He's getting some momentum around him. I think he can make it in at Daytona as well. Once again, another spot. Like I could go a guy like maybe Josh Cartwright. I could go Kevin Moran's, maybe Vince Freezy. I don't think he'll be that low necessarily, but not as much of an outdoor guy as some of these others. I'm going to go Tristan Lane. If he can put her in there, that would be 4 starts and 8 races, which I think would be solid. He's really been picking it up these last few weeks. So there you have it. There's our predictions for Daytona. And next week, we're going to have two sets of predictions because guess what? MXGP is finally around the corner. So we're going to have a bit more MXGP stuff. We're going to try to get our guy Edward Heather back on so we can talk about MXGP. There are so many silly season moves and team changes, different things moving around over there. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. We're going to have a lot to cover in a little bit of time because we're going to be obviously wrapping up Daytona and talking about the next Supercross race, but some MXGP talk. Hope you guys enjoy that next weekend. Hurlings on new collars, Geiser on new collars, Tom Vial back in Europe, Kaida Wolf's on a 450. So much to talk about. Before we go today, is there anything else you'd like to add, Jack, before we conclude episode number 30?
No, but if you're in Daytona, come see us. We'll be there.
There you have it. Yes, go check out the DBD pits. Third legal Dirt Bike Depot KTM. They will have Jace Kessler, Marcus Phelps, Jackson Driscoll there, of
Oh,
course.
before we go,
Okay.
since we had a little military round, what was
Yes.
your favorite graphic kit of the
Oh yeah.
weekend? And then I'm going to ask
Ooh.
the gear question.
Graphic kit. There's a lot of good ones. Once again, there's always some great ones. I did like the HEP Twisted T Suzuki Blue Angels ones, but I wish they would have went all out. I remember like 2016-ish, the Motorcycle Superstore team that existed for like 1 year, they did full Blue Angels kits, and those things were incredible. I think I might have to go Club MX with graphic kit. Their 82nd Airborne Division kits. I like the grayed out look. I thought it was a really sweet look. I thought Gizmo Racing also had a really nice kit with the kind of old school plain look toward the back. But man, there's so many. You guys had a nice camo kit. Kevin Moranz's team had a nice white with some camo on there. The Honda kits were cool with the black with the white. But I'm gonna go Club MX here. I think the grayed out look for graphic kits was really, really sick for them. I'm gonna say Cody Schock, Devin Simonson were looking awesome out there. Club MX usually always has some sweet graphic kits. SKDA always crushes it. Honda, Suzuki, Club MX, Quadlock, Triumph, those guys just crush it every single year on these military appreciation graphics. I know you guys aren't an SKDA team, but I'm unaffiliated. I don't have sponsors, so I'm going to shout out to SKDA. They crush it every year. That's my pick for graphic kit gear. Oh man, that's a little bit harder. I feel like I didn't pay attention as much to the gear, to be completely honest. So this might take a while for me to think about, to be completely honest. I'll let you go ahead because I think I got to think about the gear one.
So for graphics, I think the Triumph one looked pretty sick. I think it looked
Yeah,
sleek, smooth. You could see the detail with like the whole Air Force situation they got going on. That was cool. Um, I think that's what I'm going to go with for my pick. I mean, I thought ours were cool, but I feel like I can't be saying all that because, I'm patting myself on the back there or something.
yeah,
But for gear, though, I am going to shout out 110 because our team and Moran's wore it. I thought
that was a good looking gear.
the camo
I'll
looked
admit
pretty
it.
good, like with the numbers and stuff, and it like matches the orange bike and whatnot. Like I
Yep.
thought it all came together really nice. So I'm gonna say us for the gear. I think clubs look pretty good. I think the gray looked good, and I think um, I'm trying to think who else did like a gear like Logan Lightsell had a cool kit. I don't know if you saw his.
Yeah, he's got custom kits every weekend. I
Yeah,
would
so
Pro
it's
Tech, I believe, is his gear brand. They did a good
yeah.
job. Yes.
Yeah, they did pretty sick stuff. So I think those two. I think ours was a little bit better, but I think Logan Lightsell was a close second. I have to shout him out.
I'm trying to look through the Swap Moto Live Kickstart, and all I'm seeing is pictures of the basic looking blue and green Star Yamaha 250 gear for now. Club MX did a solid job once again on the gear. I like the gray outlook everywhere in there. I might have to go with the 110 like you guys had as well. FXR had a nice kit for Sabachi. I'm seeing it right there. I'm also seeing a picture by picture look of his tumble at the end of the whoops. So how he got seventh place is impressive. I think FXR had a different kit because Quadlock had different graphics on every single bike. But I might have to go. Mookie had a solid kit looking at it there. I wasn't a huge fan of the A-Star stuff. I thought Hunter's was the best, but I wasn't a huge fan of Tomac's or Anderson's personally. But yeah, I might have to go with the 110 gear that you guys had. Because honestly, like I said, I was paying attention way more to the bikes. I just didn't really think about the gear a whole lot. Logan Leitzel did have a great kit, as you mentioned. ProTech, they've been doing custom kits for him all year. I know they had like the Angels themed one in Anaheim, which was really cool. I'm sure there's more in the works from them, but I'm not going to argue with you. The 110 stuff was sick. That's a fun way to conclude it. Obviously, if you listen to our year-end awards from 2025, we mentioned a lot of military stuff in that one. So some of these could be in the running for our kid of the year at the end of the year. You never know. It's early still, only mid-February. But thank you all for listening. Episode 30. It's been a fun episode talking about Arlington Supercross. I was there. Jack was there. Good vibes, good time. As he mentioned, go swing by the DBD pits. Always fun to talk to those guys. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but they will definitely go chat with you. Thank you so much. Spread the love. Share all of our stuff. He's Jacked Up SMX and Jack Noel 35 on Instagram. Also, go follow DBD Racing on Instagram. Follow the team, see what they're doing. I am TJ Stire 3 on Instagram. The Stire Sound official, you can find stuff about our show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. For Jack Noel, I am Trey Stire, and episode number 30 of the Stire Sound is fading out. Do it for Dale.